And we are live. Good morning, everyone. You know what day it is. This is Wednesday. Woke Women Wednesday. Senator Dianne Wilkerson with you here. I am so excited about my guest today. I can't wait to get to it. But you all know how I start every Wednesday morning when we come to you. I start by saying thank you to the sisters who had the vision to know how important it was going to be a year ago, right? This is May 2020, WWOC Radio live on Facebook, right? And they knew how important it is for Black folks in general to have a medium to impart information. I would say accurate information in a timely fashion. And so that's what we do. I say thank you. I've come here every Wednesday morning at 11, and then at 8 p.m., you all know my fearless, fierce and fearless sister warrior, I call her, city councilor, uh, Julia Mejia. She closes out at 8. I open at 11. And this morning, I have the opportunity to bring you in the context we talk about every week. I say all things Black, Brown, and COVID, which means all things, right? Because COVID has kind of crept in and impacted every aspect of our life. And one of those lives is our political life because we're in campaign mode in Boston. And it's been an incredible season because we have seen an unprecedented number of Black faces, which to me is appropriate since we have a majority of people of color in this city. We're getting to a point now where majority of people of color, by the way, who weren't necessarily who are born in Boston. I'm one. In fact, the majority. It's a rarity to me when I meet a Bostonian. But we're in campaign season, and one of the most important and storied districts, city council districts in our community, is District 7, occupied by the late city councilor Bruce Bowling, the late city councilor Chuck Turner, our friend and soon to be, I call him marijuana mogul, Tito Jackson, and um, and of course our mayor Kim Janey is still until the end of the uh, this year, she is still the sitting representative for District 7 as well. So even being acting mayor didn't change that. I want people to be clear and understand that that is the fact. But she will be leaving in January, and we will have a new district councilor. And so the preliminary election, we had a whole long list, and then we had to narrow it down to two people. Some folks were confused and thought that meant go in the booth and vote for two people. And that's really not what it means. You have to pick one, and the top two with the largest number of votes then will be on the ballot November 2nd. And the top vote getter in that preliminary race was one Tanya Anderson. And so many people said, "Who's Tanya Anderson?" And I said, "Well, let's ask her." And so I want to get you on right away, Tanya, so we can start this conversation. I'm really delighted to have you here, delighted just to really learn and get to know you, and excited about what is to come. Here, I'm going to start with a question to you
Okay.
because I was in a similar situation in 1992 when I decided to run for Senate, right? And I'm like in the race and just trying to figure out how you get people to vote for you. And somebody I read an article in the paper, literally says, if elected, Wilkerson will be the first African American state female senator in Massachusetts. And for me, I actually didn't think about that. Like nobody runs to be the first, right? Like you don't, but it happens. And so you're in that path, and it's kind of like it's like an because I'm willing to bet that you didn't get up one morning and said, you know what, I'm Muslim and I think I want to be the counselor. It's like a piece of it, but not the driving force. I want to know how you've been handling that, and then talk about that. And then I'm going to have you just talk about who is Tanya Anderson.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's really an honor and a pleasure. I remember growing up in Roxbury Academy Homes, looking up to you, Senator. And is it okay if I call you Dianne?
Please do.
Thank you. And I really, this is the thing. Like you've paved the way people like, Gloria Fox, Representative Gloria Fox, people like Counselor Yancey, then I remember also the late Chuck Turner, peace and blessings be upon him. And it's really an honor to be here as a Black woman that grew up in Roxbury, that grew up in Academy Homes, to be able to say, wow, like I topped the ticket. I did. I just wanted a chance to be one of the two. And then I said, and then I'll fight and I'll keep fighting and hopefully, God willing, that's God's plan, and I'll be first. And so here I am. And you're right. Like, you don't think about, the first of the first. I am going to be the first African born city councilor, God willing, right? If elected, I will be the first Muslim ever elected in all of Boston. And I will be, and then there's other categories, right? But you don't think about that. And someone said that to me. Do you know, like, are you registering this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's also part of it.
Exactly.
So if it helps, young women, if it helps other Black or just Muslim, other minorities to see that, right? This is what I saw growing up, you know what I mean, from you, right? From other electeds of color, women of color, or Black women like myself. And so to be here talking to you, right, and bringing history full circle, to me, it's such an honor and divine. And I am just, I'm grateful. Without getting all sappy and emotional, I'm very grateful.
I'm excited always, because you know what, I share this with people all the time. One of my worries is that young people see the madness of politics, because there's a lot of it. And we've seen probably more of it in the last 4 years than ever in the collective history of the country. My fear is always they're going to see it and say, I don't want anything to do with it. So the fact that seeing that there are still people like yourself who say, you know what, but I want to be a part of that. People who see what the role of public servants, elected servants really are, and don't let all that noise kind of get in the way. I have utmost respect for it. I do. So I respect the decision. I respect people who, notwithstanding that, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but part of me says that part of the nonsense is designed to discourage people like you. So when you see through that and you say, you know what, yeah, but that's not the kind of place in politics and politician and public servant I want to be, and I'm still going in. So I appreciate that. I really do. And I think that the other thing I'll say to people all the time is, it's so easy for people to see you as Tanya Anderson, October 6, 2021. But unless they know who you are and where you've been, they can't even really appreciate what they're seeing today. So I want you to share some of that, because that's real.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm a African-born Black woman. I came at the age of 10. If people always ask which country, that's Cape Verde Islands. I got here 10 to reunite with my mom. She came for the American dream. And when I reunited with her, I had been living with my uncle, who suppressed himself to raise his 6 siblings and myself and my sister and my brother. My uncle was a gay man who later in his life came out. And to understand his story, that he sacrificed himself to raise us in a country that at the time would have, been adversely impacted, is tremendous to me. So I try to live out his legacy, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. And so growing up in Academy Homes, a lot of people are like, oh man, Academy Homes, Academy Terror Homes. And there was some terror, but honestly, there was so much love. And in the way that I grew up, in the way that the community took me in the way that we looked out for each other. And anyone who's from Roxbury, anyone who understands Roxbury love, right? Understands what that means for us. And for me to grow up, and then eventually I got my first job at 13. There was a need because we were in extreme poverty to support my mom and my siblings. Eventually, I helped her get my brother and sister over from Cape Verde. By the time I was 15, I worked with Barbara Boulette, the
I
beloved
know. I know her.
my beloved Barbara Boulette at Roxbury Multi Service Center. I grew up with Miss Claudia, Miss Awumi, these people mentoring me, and then I went to work for DIMIC as a HIV counselor. I would go on to Blue Hill Ave and work with the sex workers there, and I worked at Project Hope with homeless and addiction, career advocacy, and also BPS doing academic, parent advocacy and homeschool connections. Then I dedicated 7 years in home, home-based trauma-informed services with youth under 21. I needed a little break, so I said, let me do something fun, right? I opened a little boutique. I called it couple therapy. I would teach myself how to sew, eventually develop urban theater from that, and just created a lot of art. And I got recruited to work as a director at Bold Geneva Main Streets because of my entrepreneurial experience. And after looking into different ways and how we face technicalities, bureaucracy, and red tapes in the city of Boston, understanding that systemic oppression and racism that keeps us back, right? I decided that if the opportunity opened, at first I was like, oh, I'm going to run at large. And a lot of people was like, yeah, maybe you should look at, smaller. And I said, yeah, that's true. I've been doing a lot in the community, but maybe I haven't really put my name out there. And I want to focus small, right? I want to really be effective. So then at least that's my personal decision or preference. And once the Mayor Janey said she's running, I was like, word, this is my opportunity. And I jumped in. So here I am.
And the thing the reason why I wanted you to tell that story is because your story is the story of so many, like of us. And I say us, I'm a single parent. I came here to go to law school. I knew not a soul in Boston, but I was in Western Mass. And my two sons were 3.5 and 4.5 years old. And we packed up a truck, a U-Haul truck, you know what I mean? It's like what you represent is the story of so many Black women, Latina women, and even for men as well. Our stories are different. We get to places in a different way. And it's important for everyone to understand that Tanya Anderson wasn't born the director of Main Streets in Bowdoin, Geneva. That's why I want you to tell that story. That in order to get there, there's a whole lot of stops you made along the way. And so there's no one way to do it. And I don't do that's amazing. It's not amazing. In fact, it's what we do every day. We just do it, right? And your mom, foster mom, talk about that.
Yeah, so in living out my uncle's legacy, I think a lot about, the kind of person that he would want me to be, right? I wanted to be that person with a big heart that looked at, a need and did something about it. So it just dawned on me where I have two sons and I had been homeless. I lived here 17 years without a green card. So because of that, while homeless, I faced deportation proceedings. I had to get a lawyer, plead to the court, get the community to sign petitions and everything. And going through that so for about a decade, I would save money every year or so, and I would go back to school. I would save money again, and then I would go back to school. Now I didn't have a green card, so I had no business being there. But I said, as long as I don't tell them and I pay for it, it's all good. So I would keep doing that, and it took me like 10 years to do it. But I said to myself, after I went through all of that, I realized that, God had blessed me with some really good kids and we were happy in our home, even myself as a single mother. Why not open my doors to children, and then it went up to 17 long-term foster care. And these there were it's very difficult experience because you do bond with children, of course, and even my children will cry when they have to return home or situations like that. But it's been really transformative. It's been an evolutionary process for me to go through, different trials in my life and understanding you're not really giving. Serving is really evolution for self.
Yeah.
And in that way, I think that the synergy that we create with our community is very important in how we live out our journey.
And so in all of that, like I said, we bring to every situation the totality of our life experience. That totality of experiences led you to a decision to run for public office. And that's the final one. I want you to talk about that one.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So the decision to run is that you get to a point in your life, not that you say, well, I've grown enough. I'm 42, I've grown enough, but that you say, how do I develop or invest more in myself, my family, and community, right? You see the problem, and there are different ways, as you said, to tackle the issue.
Right.
Because of my experiences with policy and exposure to the red tapes and processes in City Hall, I realized that being a part of it could mean that I was the one qualified to be in this position. And that's a hard decision. Why am I qualified? Why am I qualified? And so you have to pray about it, and you really have to ask God to put you in a place that, you're not going to worry about judgment. You're not going to worry about exposing and being vulnerable, right? Because I'm bringing in people into my life and my story, and that to ready me to be to answer questions that are difficult or to deal with criticism. And I'm not saying I'm totally ready. I'm just saying that in terms of qualification, who better qualified than a Black woman to lead? And that is the conclusion I came down to. And I spoke with, I sought advice from a leader in the community, Miss Williams. I won't say first name just in case I don't want to put her on the spot. But she said to me, think about the Jesus example. And that led me to really finalize my decision. I have to give credit to Brianna Milor, who is a dear friend and an Emerge. We went to this Emerge class to, learn how to run or whatever. And she had said, I need to talk to you, sis. I know you didn't come here to run for office, but I need to talk to you. And she pushed me to think about it. And after that, I spoke with Miss Williams, and she said, think of Jesus and his example. And I said to myself, okay, if Jesus was to return today and he asked me, would you fight? Which side would you be on?
Right.
And then would you cower or would you rather fight? So the fight is difficult, right? It's extremely difficult. But what are you going to decide? If you had to do it, are you going to be a soldier on the right side, or would you prefer just watching, be a bystander and just watch?
That's right. You're at the point where you just have to make a decision. And I want to talk about Roxbury, about so many of the things that I suspect were on your list, kind of the things that you see. Like you said, you look around, you said, I could do that, or I have an opinion about that. But talk about what you see as the, I guess, the kind of the pressing matters, because our issues are different. For sure, our issues are different, and I live in Roxbury, so it's a special place for me. I don't really imagine living anywhere else, and it's hard to explain that. But then at some point, I decided I don't have to explain it. but there's some real things that you want that are that I'm sure you have on your mind. And so I would love for you to share with the listeners and viewers kind of what do you think needs to be done? What are the pressing issues right now for you?
The pressing issues are really easy to list. So, of course, affordability, housing affordability, whether rental or home ownership. Healthcare is a huge issue because it encompasses Melnia Cass, health inequities with Black people, right, or people and people of color, and as well as education, right? I feel these three are at the crux or the basics of your, or should be the foundation of your livelihood, of how you live, of how you lead your life, and how you stabilize and care for your family, right? And so if you don't have those three things, if you don't have health, if you don't have education and economic integration, right? If you don't have a home, right, a stable shelter, then how do you focus on anything else? And so I think those three, and we'll keep it to that. Of course, there's so many other issues.
Right.
Those three things are priority. And my approach to this is that the city is rich and has, and fortunately enough, we are at the capital of, hospitals, universities,
That's
businesses.
right.
And so we are fortunate enough to be a minority majority city. We are fortunate enough to be in a city that's rich. But we all know that systemically, right, even in the city of Boston, like city jobs, city contracts, at least we saw the research of what happened in terms of the contracts that went to minorities. I think it was 1.5. Correct me, because I know that you were part of
1.2.
that. 1.2.
But yeah, half of a 0.5% is,
And then,
to me in my mind it's criminal, but go ahead. Yeah.
of course it is. And so in that sense, right, we know that we have so much work to do. And it's not just, I don't want to use, political jargons or narratives that sound good, soapbox issues that are polished and generic and easy to present. I want to talk to the people and say, look, we have work to do, but what it's going to take, it's a level of patience and stamina, but also compassion, right? Because compassion renders that level of tenacity, that level of work ethic that is going to take for us to critically approach every execution, not just look at blanket bullet policies that we just throw over everything, like rent control, or we just say things, but we're not looking critically at how it's going to affect Black families. We have to look at, expanding rent to own programs. We have to look at unrestricting deeds. If I purchase a property and it's a lottery and it's restricted, then how do I pull out equity, right? So allow me to buy you back, allow me to pay back that 100,000 that I bought it for, and then still build equity from market value 20 years later. And then there's other ways, land trusts, right? Tax breaks that we can look at. There are other ideas. I think in terms of education, we have to look at, the well-being of a child in a holistic perspective. So we're looking at mental health, we're looking at emotional intelligence, financial literacy, civic engagement, STEAM, so more science, right, and arts in our schools, looking at how to create more opportunities for trade, but also workforce development. So actually creating partnerships with unions so that people can actually go directly into jobs, looking also in unions and making sure that there's equitable opportunities and upper mobility, right? As well as looking at the city department itself, within the department and contracts, making sure that it's not just a study, but that we're holding our next mayor and city electeds to it, accountable to it. I think this will take a level of civic engagement, campaigning, to one, destigmatize this thing of politics, right? And creating sort of, bringing the power, the information back into the people's hands. If knowing is half the battle, and I provide a platform where folks can hold me accountable, right? So I set precedents. I will publish my job description. You can literally monitor and measure the objectives that I say I work on. Then hopefully that sets precedents for other folks to do the same. You will know what I do, what I'm supposed to do, how you're supposed to use me, and how to hold me accountable. And that is how I think what I mean by not speaking generically, hey, hold me accountable, I'm transparency. Okay, well, what does that mean? Can't hold you accountable if I don't know what you do. So I'm looking at different ways in a very technical approach of making this thing, and hopefully, God willing, working with integrity, making this thing totally transparent so that folks can navigate resources and local government and feel they have power and influence to be able to integrate with municipality.
Right, right. It is important. I mean, I think about the things that are going to be facing you when you walk in January. One of them is the 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 decisions that have to be made on what to do with $500 million. You know, that's sitting there that is supposed to be used for the recovery process that we're in it, that's for sure. Don't worry about the noise. I said city noises. That's what it is. But we are supposed to be in a recovery when we're still in the pandemic or in the crisis, which is the first time I think maybe in the history that we've ever been there. Not just the history for Boston, but across this country, across the world, really. If you think about it, there's a lot of things that we need to start fixing. But the reality is we normally, you have a mudslide, you have a fire, you have a tornado, you have a hurricane. It's over, it passes, and then you start the cleanup. We're literally doing the cleanup while it's still raining and the fire is still burning. And I think we have to. I don't have a problem. That's not a criticism as much as it is just an observation, because already the federal government has given the city of Boston over $500 million to begin that process. And I know that there are a lot of different ideas that people have about how it should be spent. But one thing that I want to really say to you, ask you, implore you, is that everyone keeps saying that, because it's the fact that the Black Boston and Latino residents in Boston suffered the worst, suffered the most, were hardest hit, continue to suffer from all of the different impact and affect of COVID-19, economically, health-wise. And so we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful, which in my mind should mean, right, that most of the recovery resources would be directed to the community that is hardest hit. We already know what that means. Put on the boxing gloves. You ready to fight? Because this is going to be a fight. Nothing for us comes easy.
Yes, I'm ready to fight. And it's a beautiful thing to be in a place that you can, without a doubt, be sure in your conviction, right? Be firm in your convictions and be uncompromisable in terms of your moral compass. I know what needs to happen. I don't have all the answers in the how, but I am someone in this place in my life, at this time in my life, that I can say unequivocally that I am ready to fight, right? And it's the good fight, right? It's the good trouble. So, as our late brother would say, right? And I think that it's a matter of collaborating with community leaders, with those that know better or that have done the work, right? With those that have already done the research or those who have paved the way. It's important for us to be respectful in how we approach it, right? And a lot of the times, some people or the people that are in control will think that they can scream louder about our pain than we can scream about our pain. And they think that they are arrogant in their position in how they will save us. And we have to be ready to be able to say, that is not going to work, right? And in order for me, in a leadership position, if I am not a true servant, I won't include people, right? I won't build my army. and I have to build my army. I know that I'm just someone that God has chosen to be in a position to, God willing, lead. If that's the case, if my role is leadership, it's truly serving and connecting and paving the way and creating this network and collaborations with my community. I'm not going to be successful if I don't do that.
Right, right. I would say, as we wind down, I tell you, the 30 minutes will go quick, but you can get a lot in. You said a lot, and this is really my final thought to you, is that I think I have met so many, not just elected officials, but residents, these people who ask of elected officials, what's your plan to do X, right? And I always push back, and I really, my one word of advice is that not to treat this like a test. Like, this is not supposed to be you go off by yourself and figure it out. What it's supposed to be is something that you just said. I want to be able to talk to people who know, draw on experience, expertise, whether it's healthcare, economics, whatever it is, because we have so many experts. And some of that expertise was gotten by just pure grit, right? What you know about motherhood and what, a perseverance is not because you went to a class. It's because you lived it. And so I don't expect my city councilor to have the answer, the cure the cancer, the idea about how to fix, home ownership. What I expect them to do is to convene the people and tap into the knowledge base of the people who do. Those to me are the ones that are most successful, right? And I've heard you talk like that. And so I think it will be a very successful journey for you, because you walk in here knowing that you're not supposed to come with all the answers. You're supposed to come with an understanding of what to do when you don't have them. And too many electeds don't have that.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like they think that they're supposed to have them all. And so what that means is that they are resistant to advice, suggestions when it comes. And so you keep that attitude, you keep that thinking, and you're going to do fine. I'm excited about, like I always talk about, this Boston that we could be. And the only way we get there is to have people like yourself who are willing to take that leap, and to get in this mix of public service, because it is how we run the city, the state, the country, the world. And we have to make sure that we continue to feed people who are hungry enough and can see through the noise to say, yeah, I want to do that. So I'm just going to say again, like I said, I open saying this by saying thank you again. Any parting final words? Tell us about what you need for people to do.
I think final words is that my website is Tanya 4D7, so the number 4, letter D, 7.com. You can, all of my contact information is there. Contact our campaign if you want to door knock with us, make phone calls. Please donate also at Tanya4D7.com. We're a grassroots campaign, and we plan on staying active all the way to January, and probably will not stop, because I think that campaigns in general need to do a lot of civic engagement and that type of work so that we can do what we say we're going to do. I would love to bring back the roundtables, the lecture Chuck Turner's roundtables. So we'll be looking for that too. If you're interested, send me emails, let me know. Again, we're going to get to a point, and I'm speaking with constituents, including yourself, Ms. Dianne, is that I'm going to get into a point where we may clash, we may disagree. And I want us to always have the energy of growing together as a community, of coming together as one people, and looking forward to solutions. And I'm very open again for advice, and look forward to collaborating. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to say it again, Tanya. Just so you know, Tania. Want to make sure we get Tanya, number 4, letter D, 7.com.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank
Tanya
you.
for D7.com. Thank you so much again. Stay tuned tonight at 8. Make sure you check in, you sign in. You'll see City Councilor Julie Mejia. She closes the day. I open at 11. Again, thank you to the sisters with the vision. Who knew that we needed to have this vehicle, WWOC Radio, Facebook Live. So we're on every week, bringing information. That's timely information. November 2nd. Make sure we say that November 2nd is election day. And that's the day we're going to choose the people that we think are important, relevant, able to take Boston to the next level that we want to go. We've been through a lot, Boston, in the last 2 years especially. And we were already in the fight before we ever heard of this thing called coronavirus. And it's only been more intense. But I think the future looks bright. And I thank you to my guest, Tanya Anderson, candidate for District 7, City Councilor, November 2nd, vote. Everybody has opinions, but they don't count. The only thing that counts on November 2nd is the vote. So make sure you do that. You still have time to register. You can go online, you go to City Council, you go in a post office, you'll see the registration forms. No excuse, no excuse. Like I said, they don't count opinions, they only count votes. So signing off. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Don't forget, wear your mask when you're out. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let me get on.